Welcome to the Awakening Entrepreneur Podcast. This show is for entrepreneurs that have chosen to define their life beyond the material. They have followed their soul on a hero's journey towards the mystery of the spiritual. I'm your host, Garrett Ng. Each episode will be learning from awakened entrepreneurs and spiritual thought leaders. They have broken through the mold of being ordinary to extraordinary, challenging our paradigm, shining light to the dark, giving hope when there is doubt. The moment of truth is upon us. It is time to transcend our world from fear to love. Are you ready? Let's go! Hello, so today on the show we've got the amazing Claudette Anderson. Claudette is a truth facilitator. She helps people unravel their BS and get to the truth of what's really going on in their lives. And she happens to be the creator of the Truth Methods, which she personally developed as well. She's also a CEO, an author, and someone who is passionate about helping everyone get the freedom from the desire within their soul. So welcome to the show, Claudette.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Gary, for asking me to be on. Thank you.
So I'm fascinated. I'm hearing from circles of people in Tony Robbins' Platinum community that speaks highly of you and the work that you do and how you've helped them transform or have major breakthrough in their life, tapping into the truth. So have you always been coaching or have you gone through a troubled childhood similar to a lot of us and somehow stumbled upon this journey?
I laugh because most of us have a troubled childhood. So I've always been what I would call spiritually aware. I just didn't know what to do with it. So one of my first memories as a child was I saw a negative energy in my room. Like I saw, scary things, where kids see scary things and stuff like that. And so I grew up being fearful of a lot of spiritual things.
When you say negative energy, is it like, do you actually see like almost in the shape of a humanoid? Because I remember like growing up, I used to like maybe after watching movies, I think about witches. There's witches in the room. So when I go up the stairs and it's dark, I used to be scared. And I know that my second son, he still want to sleep with us a lot of the times at night because he's scared of different things.
Yes. And we could actually help your son with that. We could show him a quick way to get rid of that fear. So yeah, it was in the shape of a humanoid. It was in the shape of a woman in my room. And she kept coming to my room often until I told my mom. I was probably 2.5 when I remember it. And it kept happening for about a year. My mom prayed for me and over the room. And I grew up in a Christian household. So for a while, that's all that I knew. But I've always had a very curious mind. Like I've always wanted to figure out who said it first, who taught it first, where did we get this from? Why are we believing this? And so I refuse to just believe something just because someone tells me. I always have to go deeper into what's the original writings on this, or how did this unfold? So what happened in my childhood is my dad abandoned us, but before he did, he drained the brake fluid on our car. And I just tell this story. I'm not hurt by this anymore, but I tell this story so people can relate. And what happened with that is my mother emotionally kind of broke down for a little bit because she didn't want the divorce. And I think she had a hard time accepting that he had actually done that to try to see if we could get into a wreck. We crossed a 6-lane highway without a car hitting us. So we moved in with my grandparents. Then we moved into projects. My dad had left. He was going on assignment. And when it was time for us to head out, Mom starts driving and she can't stop the car. She can't stop. We cross the 6-lane highway and no one hits us, thank goodness. And we were in Texas and we ended up in a field. It was next to a gas station. The gas station attendants run out, they get our car, they push it in and they check it out and they say, like, your brake fluid has been completely drained. And specifically, my dad had told my mom, oh, I made sure to check your brakes. He said it like 3 times before he left. So it took her a little while to realize he really wanted out, to the point that he was driven to do that. And so emotionally, my mother began to break down with that. And so we moved in with her parents, my grandparents, who are, I attribute to be my second parents. They've passed on now, but my grandmother was like another mother to me, and my grandfather was like a father. And we lived with them for a few years. Then mother moved to projects. Do you know what the projects are?
Nope.
Okay, so in America, the projects are low-income housing.
Yeah.
So, the first day we moved in, I was beat up. I had never gotten into a fight. I was in the 3rd grade, and I learned very quickly how to become wise about things. I just learned how to do that, and I worked my way into this group of girls and survived 3 years in the projects. And as a matter of fact, we used to protect people on the playground. We began to be the people at the bus stop where we wouldn't allow fights, stuff like that. So after that, my mother married a guy that was abusive, and he was a pastor of a church. So he was physically abusive, and for the next 3 years, I grew up in that environment. And my brother and I started fearing for our life, and we decided to start a fight with him and kick him out. And that's how we got rid of him. So I've always been a fighter and someone that just pursues the truth, if that makes sense. Now, I can't say I've been perfect. I am not perfect by any means. But I've always tried to figure out, why do I feel like I feel? Why are my emotions like they are? What is causing this? But I didn't have that answer yet. So I ended up getting married at a young age. I had a lot of issues. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I was enough. So many of us have these issues. And I had a lot of anger because I had felt like my mom did not protect us. She continuously put us in situations. And at that time, I didn't understand forgiveness. I didn't understand that she was doing the best that she could do it for herself and for us. And so I had a lot of anger. And my first marriage failed, not because of my anger, but he became violent. So I was like, why am I around this violence? Why am I attracting this? I began to understand attraction. So that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. I grew up in a Christian household, but I didn't research anything until I left home and I was mid-20s. I remember going to the library because I was on a college campus, and I was like, I want to check out some spiritual books and see what they have. And I started reading certain books, different religions. I started exploring, and my whole world expanded at that point. But I still wanted to know why my mind plagued me with the thoughts that it did. Like, why did I have a lack of peace? Why did I constantly feel like I shouldn't be around other people, or that, one thing would be said and it would take my power, if that makes sense? Why did I feel so insecure? And it was almost like this uphill battle. And I began to say, I want the truth about this. And the first time I discovered access to the truth on a conscious level, I actually had been diagnosed with cervical cancer. And I had married my second husband, and I got the diagnosis and went from stage 1 to stage 4 in 4 months. And they were telling me, you need to have your cervix removed. This is going to spread. It's going to metastasize. You need to have it removed. But when I was first told I had cancer, I sent a challenge to the universe. And my challenge was, if there really is a higher power, if there really is a universal knowledge, a universal God, a higher being, or a higher energy, whatever it is, however you want to define it, I should be able to be healed. And I had had a dream that I was going to have a girl, a daughter, and I had not had her yet. And I was like, no, I know that dream's true. It was so real to me that I was like, I'm going to have a daughter. So I began to ask for the truth. What's the truth about the cancer? And then one day it dropped into me, because at this time I couldn't consciously have that two-way conversation yet. And it dropped into me. I would be riding my bike, in the bathroom, taking a shower, sitting on the toilet, anything when your brain is out of the way and that true knowledge can drop in. And it's not really what is the truth about the cancer, it's what is the truth about what you believe that allows the cancer. And that was the first time that I began to research beliefs and how powerful they are over our body, over our being, and how they really drive the direction of your life. So I would just ride my bike and go, what do I believe that allows cancer? And I discovered that I was very angry at myself. I had not forgiven myself. I had a hatred towards myself. And so I began to heal and go, I'm very angry at myself. What's the truth about that? Right? And so different truths. And so over this 4-month period, even while I kept getting tested every month and the cancer was getting worse, I just knew I was going to be healed. And so from August to December, I had an experience where I felt like I actually was healed. I actually felt like I was literally on fire. Like literally, and my former husband at that time, and my friend were beside me, and they could feel the heat rising in me. And they were like, are you okay? And I said, I think I'm actually being healed. I really do. And so I was supposed to have surgery 2 days after that. And I canceled it. And then that January, the third week in January, I went and got blood work again because I believe in practical spirituality. So I believe in the combination of going to get the testing and, taking actions as you're led to, plus walking that spiritual path. So I call it practical spirituality because I needed to have proof, right? I needed to really know. And then I said, I believe I'm healed, but if for some reason I'm not, then I'll have the surgery. But I just don't even think that's possible. When I took the blood work in January, a week later, they called me back and they said there was no sign of cancer.
Wow.
It was completely gone. And so that was the beginning of me going, how can I walk in this and access this? It took
What did the doctor say?
Well, at first the doctor thought I had lost my mind because this was a doctor I was going to for a few years. When she first met me, I used to work at GE Financial on the negotiations team. My background's in finance. We did trading on the secondary market. And so I was like this professional woman, young woman, and the doctor loved me. And then I go in and go, no, I don't think I want to have surgery. I think I'm going to be healed. And she thought I had lost my mind. She just looked at me like I was crazy. And I remember walking in when I got that test in that January, I walked in and I could hear them whispering. They were like, that's the girl. Like some of the nurses were like, she's been healed and, it's already progressed to stage 4. And the doctor didn't even know what to say to me when I walked in and got the blood work. She was just like, you're not making any sense to me. And I said, there's certain things in life that don't make sense, but it does make sense for me to come and get tested again, right? And she goes, yeah. So she drew my blood. She really didn't know what to say. But when they called me a week later, they said, we don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep doing it. They said, we've never seen cancer completely disappear, especially stage 4. And then they kept having me come back for the next 3 years. And finally, they said, we just don't think you're ever going to have it again. And I said, I'm not. So it's just not going to happen.
It reminded me like last year when I had a fall and I had a fractured ankle. And they put me on a cast and they said that it's pretty much like 2 to 3 months healing period that I'll need to be on a cast. And I knew inside of me somehow that this was another opportunity for me to practice self-healing myself. So within the first week, I cut off my cast. My wife is like, well, where's your cast? Like, what are you doing? I didn't tell anyone, I just cut it off. Because I think like part of the healing process, like, you need to believe and know that you're going to be healed. So the visual image of seeing myself in a cast each day is reminded like somehow I'm broken or I'm not healed yet. And so I started doing stuff like just grounding and touching the grass and getting a feet contact with earth. And I remember like the first doctor revisit, it was like 2 or 3 weeks after the accident. And they went in, where's your cast? And like similar to you, they're whispering behind me. They said, oh, you need to have between 2 specialists, you need to have the stern word with him, like to make sure it doesn't take off his cast again. When they're going to do the x-ray, they said, well, we're going to do the x-ray now to see whether you did further damage. Would you mind also checking to see whether the healing process has improved beyond the average? We're going to check whether you've done further damage. And I'm freaking out and thinking, whatever that happens, are they going to put me back on a cast? Because I know that I want to take it off again. Am I going to get in trouble? Almost like a little kid at school. You shouldn't be doing that. And I was busy messaging my healers. Hey, have you had any client that had like fractured bones and they had healing within this period of time? And he said, well, anything can happen. So he didn't put a ceiling on my expectation, but I still didn't know what to say before the x-ray came back. And when they came back, the thought just downloaded to me. They said, you need to be back on a cast. And I said, well, can I be on one of those moon boots? They said, yeah, technically you can, but we're worried that you're going to take it off and not wear it. But I can, right? And they go, yeah. So they put me on the moon boot. And yeah, within the same day I got home, I took it off. And subsequently, within another week, I started putting weights on the foot. And so I'm not advocating anyone to do this at home, because obviously trust your own intuition and your doctor's advice. But I healed like 80% faster than what they told me is going to heal. And I just knew that it was part of my journey to learn one of these things. When I started waking up, like the universe started putting up, learning about finance, the economy and UFOs and a lot of different things I never had any interest to learn. And what you shared with me is kind of the similar journey that you started reading certain books in the library just called upon you. And this journey of self-healing, I assume there's also a lot of emotional work that you need to go through, because that's probably what triggered the cancer in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It is. I believe it, and I've studied the etymology of several diseases. Like this led to me doing that. And it was another, I think, 5 or 6 years before I really actually figured out how to connect to the truth and do it when I sat down to intend to do it. You know, that free flow communication. It took another 5 or 6 years. I tell everyone the early version of the truth method is the Saturday Night Live version. Like it's not the tight method it is today. It was me just trying to figure it out. And I had a lady show me, they say when you're ready to learn, the teacher will come. And she showed me how to have a deeper way of connection in prayer. And that was the spark that led me. She actually started helping me and worked with me for about 3 or 4 months. And then she fired me. She totally fired me because we kept running into the belief that I'm not worthy. Like the not worthy thing just kept coming up for me. And she goes, I don't know what to do to help you. I think you're too traumatized. I'm not equipped to help you. So when that actually happened, I was walking out of her office crying. I felt totally rejected. I was like, nobody cares. She's, rejecting me, all those thoughts, right? But I had begun to practice accessing the truth. So with that deeper way of turning inward, I had begun to do it, and I had gotten quicker and quicker. It took me 45 minutes the first time, then it took 30 minutes, then 20 minutes, and I was starting to do it within 5. And now today with the truth method, many people can do it in a minute or less for the first time. Sometimes it will take someone 5 minutes. Sometimes there's a block within someone and we need to do a second session, okay? But it's different for different people, but most people it's pretty quick and very effective. But I was walking out of her office and I received the download. Now I'm going to show you how to do this. It's going to be quicker, more effective. And so I say I got the download for the truth method, And that began, I wouldn't say the completion because we're never fully healed. I call the brain our chihuahua because, think about this. Chihuahuas, even though, I think they're cute. I used to have one years ago. They're nervous. They run around. They yap all the time, and that's kind of how our brain is. And we try to train our brain. We try to get control of our thoughts. And then what ends up happening is if we don't get truth in our soul, that thought will still rise. And then, so our brain will tell us what's in our soul. And then our brain will tell us what we taught it. So it'll tell you you're not worthy. Like, it was telling me I wasn't worthy. Then I'll say, why are you still feeling that way? You should feel worthy. Everybody's worthy. You're supposed to feel it. So it's like the brain will beat you up for what it's sharing with you because the belief that is in your soul is what rises. And so that's what I've learned is when we can get truth at that deep soul level, not worthy doesn't stand a chance. Because whatever belief that you have that claims you're not worthy, we can get truth on that and remove that immediately after the truth comes in. Then we can heal our heart and reclaim our power. And so for me, the most powerful thing that someone can do is awaken to remember that they have a birthright to access the eternal truth and step into the all-knowing. Like once you begin to access the eternal truth, what do you want to know? Everything is available. It's kind of at your fingertips because you're tapping into the all-knowing. But the first thing I share with everyone to do is get your foundation straight. Get all those beliefs that don't support you, get truth in them. And then your emotional state automatically improves. Because if I don't believe, like today I giggle at not worthy because I think it's just ridiculous. But there was a time when it plagued me. So now if anything comes up, worthy doesn't show up, you know. But we're in this world, and I believe there is something called programming. I think Tony refers to this as the mind, right? So how many of us feel not worthy, not enough, that type of thing. So that's where the truth method comes in, because it goes straight to the core of the soul. And you don't need to suffer. You don't need to suffer at all. Not anymore. We've suffered enough.
I want to ask you, so obviously we both come from a heavy personal development world. And I think especially from the Western world of upbringing, logic, framework, it really helps us to deepen our understanding. But as Einstein talks about, and a lot of teachers talks about, what got you here is not going to get you there. What role do you think like personal development comes into play in helping us navigate through these negative programming or negative conditioning that we've come across? Because at the end of the day, like from all the ancient wisdom that I've studied, it all points to looking within yourself. Regardless of what religion, it all points towards looking within yourself. Like all I need is within me now. It's almost like that's kind of embedded within the teachings, that all I need is within myself. On external, it's not some external guru, some external group or teachings or philosophy. It's all within. But a lot of the personal development, like you need to learn this technique and that strategy, which helps a long way for myself. And what is the role of personal development? Is it there to assist, or is it become a distraction?
I would never call it a distraction, but what I would say is that if you take a certain tool in personal development, so a lot of my clients are coaches. They're life coaches. Some of them are spiritual coaches. Some of them do spiritual counseling, business coaches. We call things for what they are. If I have a tool and I'm utilizing that tool, but I still have those beliefs will always drive my car. That belief will always direct me. I could hear a truth in my brain and go, that sounds amazing. Oh my God, that feels so true. But if that truth is not written on my heart and I haven't removed that belief, 2 to 3 weeks later, the truth kind of fades away. It's almost like the programming removes it. But if you hear a truth and it rings true in your being, you can simply say, Spirit of truth, please write that truth upon my heart. See, what is written on our heart, we won't depart from it. Okay? So I think the truth method can go in conjunction with the tools, in conjunction with spiritual development, because if you're accessing the truth, removing the beliefs, and then you have the tools to run a successful business, and you can access the truth for guidance, and you have the tools to grow and scale your business, think of how impactful that will be. Or if you have a method for handling emotion that just causes you to pause enough, if you insert the truth into that and you do the two methods together, you'll get set free. You had that tool to pause long enough not to go into an emotional spin. So I think it all starts within, and it's very interesting because I just contributed a paragraph to a habit book. Like I just got through submitting it and it's going to be published next month. But in that I mentioned we hear that everything we need is within us. The real question is, how do you access what is within on a conscious level? Okay, so to me, that's accessing the truth within. That's going to what I consider the highest power, because the eternal truth sets your soul free. It's not an individual truth. We are creators and we can believe something, and because we believe it, it is true for us. That's not the truth I'm talking about. I'm talking about going deeper into the eternal truth, that when you hear it, your soul knows it. And so the evidence is there. So when someone hears a truth about not worthy, so what I heard about not worthy is, Claudette, where you come from, where your spirit comes from, not worthy doesn't even exist. It's an illusion. And that was written on my heart. And you can have a belief that is woven into many other beliefs. So for me, not worthy was in 6 different beliefs. But each time it came up after the first time I got healing on it, it was less and less. It felt less, less true every time until it's kind of gone away. It's just gone away. And now it doesn't come up anymore. So the challenge that I put forth into the world is when you're really healed, you're healed. It doesn't come back. Okay. And until then, we continue to pursue. And I say pursue and choose healing because our words are very powerful. I don't seek healing because that puts me in a position of not yet having it. But I choose healing. And so I choose the truth that will set my soul free.
And I think that the soul is the key. Like I used to think that all I need is within me. Now, me as in the ego me. Like that I'm the one that has the power. Let me make my move and do certain things and take massive action and make my life happen. And these days, when I know that me is still the ego me, but the higher self, the co-creator of the universe, that's infinite power, when you know how to tap into it, when you know how to tap into the truth, then things are happening. Even lifting a finger, like that's people saying that, hey, law of attraction is not about sitting on your bum doing nothing, but it could literally be sitting on your bum doing nothing. It seems nothing, but mentally, when your visual are so clear and your emotional is on the same vibration, the events into your life, and the more that you experience it, the synchronicities that happen, the more they go, wow, like this is it. Like from your description of your journey, it didn't happen one day, but the more that you start hearing these inner voices and you start recognizing it, and you see that there's some truth to it and is actually working for you, not against you, you just start to follow this path. So I guess like for some of the listeners that they haven't started going through this awakening journey, the very beginning stages, they're curious. That's why they listen to this podcast right now. And they're still very driven about the external life, about like success and achievement and being a good mom, good dad, good husband, good wife, and good friends or good community leader. When you're going through this journey, was it difficult to kind of not release, but you still have the identity of success and we can still have all that. But was it a part of you that needed to surrender? Like, I just want success. I have no interest on this spirituality stuff. Like, do you have to fight against yourself?
For me, I've always been interested in both, but I had to understand that the things of the ego do not last. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with being successful. There's nothing wrong with it at all because you can be successful and impact many other lives. You can be successful and support other families. So to me, business is a spiritual journey. And if you're really coming at it from an ethical standpoint, you want to serve the client and you have something that they actually need that would awaken them to a better life. And you're meeting that need. So for me, there wasn't a distinction there, but there was with my ego. And I can say every time my ego has ever risen up, my chihuahua, that's what I call it, and barked around, I got out of the flow. So what you were talking about, I call the flow, many people do. I can have an intention to earn a certain amount of money a month, right? I can have an intention and a goal. And, just last month, it happened. The way I earned a certain portion of my goal was just handed to me. I was like, it could not be easier than this. But there was a time when I wasn't in that flow. And yes, you can't just sit on your bum. Be guided. What are you guided to do? Instead of stressing or worrying about it, sit back and seek the wisdom on it, the truth within, and be guided. So within us, you said everything says it's within us. I believe that we're perfecting the duality of spiritual and human. We're learning how to be both. I also believe that we are perfecting the oneness and the individualism. You can't just be in the oneness all the time because you have your own personality, you have your own traits. But we're perfecting both at the same time. So this is the duality. Heaven is within, right? The kingdom of heaven is within. So the access is within. And the answers are within. It's learning to combine that everyday life. I'm a mom. My kids are older now, but I have a daughter and a goddaughter, and they live in their own place now and things like that. My daughter's in college, but I wanted to be the best mom. With my business, of course I want it to succeed, right? Of course I want to grow it. Of course I want to make an impact on more people. I've had money and I've not had money. And it's a lot more fun to have money. So I know poverty. I know what it's like to not have groceries and not really sure what we're going to eat for the day. And then I know what it's like to have more and not really think about it, right? You just go to the grocery store. But I believe it's the duality of it. And the ego to me there's so many conversations on this. My light just burned out, doesn't matter. There's so many conversations on this that people will say the ego is a necessary thing. Well, I believe the ego, it exists without the connection to truth and source. I believe it just kind of exists on its own and it's kind of forgotten. And so when we realize this, then we can surrender within to the truth, to source, to our higher spirit, to our higher mind, understanding that that's where true genius comes from. Tesla said his mind was just a receiver. And I say our brains are the most eloquent artificial intelligence systems out there. They tell you what is in the soul. Your brain will tell you what is encoded into your soul, programmed. It will tell you that which you taught it. And it will tell you that was adapted to for your survival. That is all your brain can do. And so instead of getting control of your thoughts, get truth in your soul and your thoughts change.
Well, what's interesting, you mentioned like Tesla says it's getting downloads. When I started looking into this, like Einstein's and a lot of the great poets, artists, musicians, they all says like even Michael Jordan is playing at his peak. He's not thinking like, hey, how should I move my hands to do a particular shot? He's just flowing with the universe. They're just coming to him. And at the same time, what you mentioned previously, the programming, the negative thoughts that's coming from like why I'm not enough. Why is that person treating me this way? Where do you believe these negative thoughts come from? When we try to meditate and not think about any thoughts will just keep downloading in.
You just asked me a loaded question. I can tell you this. I call it programming because I've worked with over 4,500 people at this point and counting. And there's 12 to 15 main beliefs. And it doesn't matter what story takes place, the effect of the belief is the same on the person. So it's almost like a computer system running in the background. So that's why I call it the programming. We can talk about light and dark if you would like. We can do that. But I believe the negative beliefs, if you've ever noticed fear, like when fear comes over someone, are they more powerful or less powerful? Where in energy, at inner structure is light and energy. So everything is energy. We are made up of energy. So if I feel less powerful, I've just transferred my energy through that thought, that belief, and it goes somewhere because we can't get rid of energy. So it's transferred. The beliefs that cause us to feel less than who we are, less powerful, it causes us not to step into our purpose or do that thing in our heart that we know we were supposed to do, right? Those are the things that I say, let's get truth on. And for some reason, because our brain is like a beautiful computer system, artificial intelligence, and I noticed as I began to work with people 20 years ago that, and myself, that when I got truth and that belief was replaced with truth, my brain automatically lined up with it. I didn't have to train my brain. My brain was responding to what was encoded into my soul. And for some reason in this earth realm, we have this programming. And like I said, that's a loaded question. We could go into a lot of ancient text on that, a lot of different opinions on that.
Well, I'm keen to hear your views on where it comes from, because I've read certain things. It come from the moon, and the moon was brought in. Some says it's from the underworld. It's from people that haven't released their past hurts. And so there's a lot of different theory that I'm fascinated about.
Yeah, I just call it darkness. And, I would say not all darkness is bad and not all light is good.
We created the darkness as well.
Well, we actually, yes, our beliefs can feed it. And so if I have a fear of rejection, then I'll be rejected. Others will mirror that back to me. And I feel like that's the universe going, fix this, Claudette. Get some truth on this. And so all of our fears, all of those things actually feed the darkness. And I say fear is candy to the darkness, because fear is the first thing that rises up when someone is really close to getting the truth. I feel like fear is the first line of defense. It tries to make you back away. This is why so many people will stuff their emotions, put them back down, get control of them again. And I say, why? That's so much work. Why not just get truth? And then you don't have to stuff or get control of anything. It's gone. And if you start that journey into the truth, what ends up happening is there's some stages of connecting to the truth. Like the first stage is you're trying to rewire yourself to access the truth and not use your mind. Because our spirit should be in control of our mind, not our mind in control of our spirit. And this is another reason why I call it the Chihuahua. We need to train it. Because it's not just a beautiful AI system. It's not who we are. Okay? That's the first stage of understanding. Then the second stage is you can actually sit down, you can close your eyes, you can access the truth. You can say, what do I believe about this? I'm upset about this. What do I believe? This person rejected me. What do I believe? This person said something about me that's not true. What do I believe? I've had all of that happen. And the truth I get, like, for instance, someone says something about me that's not true. The first thing I do is, does any of that resonate? Is any of this true? Do I need to grow? That's the first thing. Because you always have to look at yourself first. And if it's not true, then, okay, my feelings might be hurt a little bit. So what's the truth I need to get healed on that? And then you get that truth and reclaim your power. So in the third stage of accessing the truth is that duality of heaven on earth. It's that duality of now you're one with the truth, and you almost don't even have to remind yourself about it because you've merged into that. And so you can access the truth at any time, driving down the road, in a business meeting, talking to someone, the truth just flows in. And it happens to all of us when our brain gets out of the way. Like, we all have sat on the toilet, Gary, and had a revelation. I mean, come on, because your brain got out of the way. Yeah. But to do it consciously, to allow your consciousness to allow the truth to flow through it without the brain limiting it. That's the third stage of it. And to me, that's heaven on earth. That's what that is. And that's that duality. So with practice, we can get there. And then when we get to that point, what do you want to know? Because you have access to ask for anything. You have access to manifest because your emotions and your thoughts are one, right? So when our emotions and thoughts are one and we ask, we shall receive. And that's asking through the heart, not the mind, not the mouth.
So I would imagine that your clients, after they've worked with you for a period of time, the Chihuahua will start to bark less often?
Yes. I just got a note from a client and he was like, I'm super excited. I got truth about my ex-wife by himself because he's walking through, I have a 12-week truth inner circle. And we're in week 2. We're not even in week 6, 8, or 9. And he's already starting to access the truth himself. And he sent information to me and said, I had 3 things I believed about my ex that I needed truth on, and I got all 3 today. And he goes, I can feel a shift in my very being, like of who I am. And so I believe that he potentially will be able to shift back into a semi-reasonable relationship with her because she's the mother of his kids, right? And so he's always going to have to interact with her. And so when there's conflict, sometimes a relationship will take a break. Sometimes people run away from conflict. But when you access the truth, you stand in what that truth is, regardless of what's happening around you. You stand in that, and you always stand in the space for everyone to have grace and for everyone to have a good conversation and create agreements that work. And for a moment, he could stand in that space and she might reject him. But if he continues to stand in that space and set the standard for the truth and for fairness, eventually she'll get comfortable with that and begin to have a conversation with him. So that's how we create better relationships. If we can stand in the midst of accusation or conflict and not run from it. So many of us, I used to run from conflict. Well, actually, you know what? I didn't even tell you the truth. I didn't run from it. I would fight. That's what I would do. I acted like a 3-year-old, when I was fighting. So it wasn't the best thing. So I think just accessing the truth on that level can deepen our relationships too. And we begin to intuitively know. We begin to intuitively know and be in sync with who we're with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there a demonstration or something that you can guide people through that only takes a few minutes for them to experience your truth method?
Yeah. I can walk through the simple steps. So what we do is we visualize, we try to occupy the chihuahua. And I share with people that our imagination is powerful. And when they start to close their eyes and access the truth, they may see images, they may see things, and that's just their mind trying to interpret that energy. So we say, let's walk down a hallway together, let's imagine that. And then we're coming up on a room on the right, and we're going to decorate that room and make that room everything that we ever wanted it to be. We're going to have a beautiful vision. For me, it's mountains and ocean. I like both, so I see both. And a balcony. And I actually send my chihuahua out across the ocean on the horizon. It has to swim back to me. It's fine. It's good exercise. And so once we do that, we have a seat, either at a table, chairs, couch, whatever you want. And then in that moment, we invite the spirit of truth in. And when you perceive the spirit of truth, we test it. So here's the thing that I would caution for everyone, because when we're in the personal development community and the healing community, a lot of us will just have someone do a healing on us, or we'll go to an event and we'll go, it has to be good. It's all clean. I say test everything and pray a prayer of protection. And so I test the spirit of truth. This is the true spirit of truth. You may stay. If not, I command you to go through source fire. So source fire is the most loving energy. It purifies, it heals. And so I send everything through source fire because I don't want to judge something. That's not my job. I say that's above my pay grade. So I'm going to let source judge it. And then once we do that and we test and truth is in there, we'll say, what is the first thing you wish to share with us today? And so at that point, the person I'm working with will get a thought or an image or a memory. Something will rise up. And once that happens, she might say, I feel like I'm going to be rejected. I have a fear of being rejected. If it's a fear, we remove the fear, okay, and freeze it. And then we get truth on what do you believe that allowed the fear of rejection? Then what is the truth? And once we say, can we remove the fear of rejection? If we get a yes, then we remove the fear of rejection. We replace it with the truth. We heal the heart. We ask the spirit of truth to heal the heart, and we reclaim our power back. And we reclaim it filtered through source. And we just walk through a methodical process of what do I believe? What's the truth? What do I believe? What's the truth? Can I get rid of that belief? If it's a yes, we do. If it's a no, you believe something else that supports it. So we make sure we get the beliefs that support that thing. And then when we're ready, we heal our hearts, reclaim our power, and send it through source fire. It's so simple. What I've realized is source is so simple. And our chihuahua makes everything complicated.
Yeah, what you just described, it sounds like a very effective and powerful process that really knocks it out from a soul level. I look at it almost like the chihuahua as the mind, and a lot of the personal development strategies that, and even personal development, like you said, they are just tools. When you are not at a level of consciousness, you interpret it from a more shallow level. So they kind of condition the mind to behave. But if the soul is actually the owner of the chihuahua and the owner is not behaving, the owner is yelling and screaming and is in a quite chaotic state all the time, how do you expect the chihuahua to be like sitting there quietly and just watching you when the owner is behaving a certain way? Proximity is power. They learn from you. By addressing the owner, which a lot of the different, whether it's the dog whisperer or the super nanny show, it's like one of the first thing they work on is the actual parents, the owner, not on the kid or the pets.
Right. So I think that comes from everybody's thinking that we are our mind. Like, they think because the thoughts that are in the mind, oh, now I need to fix the mind. But the mind is just a computer reporting to us what is in the soul.
Yeah,
So
I did a video
that's,
recently that what if you look at your five senses of hearing, seeing, tasting, and feeling, etc. But what if you look at your thoughts as your sixth sense? Like you're not in your thoughts and the thoughts comes in, oh, anger. I can see anger. But doesn't mean that you're angry. Like just like if I ate chili, like I'm not chili. I just tasted chili. But I guess upbringing, we haven't been taught that our thoughts is not our thoughts.
I believe, and this comes from working with people over the years. Yeah, our thoughts rise from what is in our soul. Our emotions, however, are indicators of that which needs truth. So if you have an emotion that disrupts your love, your peace, or your power, we should be in a state of love, peace, and power. That is our birthright. That is who we are. And if anything disrupts love, peace, and power, then I want to know what I believe that allowed that, and I will continue to get truth until I'm back at the point of love, peace, and power. Because otherwise, feeling sad, I don't mind feeling sad for a minute. So I don't say to ignore the emotion. The emotion is the gateway to the root belief. But I also don't believe we need to suffer over and over. So when I'm working with someone, let's say they've had a trauma or they've lost a loved one and they're really sad, I just say, let's freeze the emotion for now. Because while that emotion is in full throttle, it's hard for them to go to the soul. The emotion's kind of just blurring everything. Even though we need to feel that emotion, let's freeze it, let's get truth. And then I go, is that emotion still there? And she's like, I'm peaceful. No, it's not there. So to me, emotions are a gift to us. And if they're good emotions, that indicates we have truth within us. If there are emotions that drain our power, well, then that indicates something that we need truth on. And so let the emotion be the trigger to seek the truth. And don't become so into the energy of the whirlwind of the emotion that it consumes you and takes you over. Because the hierarchy of our being, I believe we have a spirit, a soul, and a body. Our spirit is the highest level. Our soul is a compressed portion of our spirit that gets the programming. Our body is the suit that we're wearing while we're here. And it's a very sophisticated, beautiful suit with an artificial intelligent brain. It's a beautiful thing. We need our brain to drive our cars, to function. It tells our system to work right. But even in telling our systems to work, what we believe controls our health. So ultimately, your spirit should rule over your soul, which should rule over your body. And it all should be under truth, and
Beautiful.
then we can walk in power, in peace, and love.
What do you see from the typical person before the truth method and after doing the truth method? Like, what's the difference?
Well, the feedback that I get is they feel like even just one session, I had someone do her first session today, and she's like, I feel lighter. I feel freaking powerful. I want to run a marathon. I was like, do it. Because when we get truth at a soul level and we reclaim our power back, we're infused with energy. Now, after a session, someone may want to take a nap for an hour or two, but then they should get back up and they should be infused with energy. Anytime we are healed, we should be infused with energy. So we should pay attention. Do we get energy or do we lose it after doing something? And because Source has abundant energy. And I've even been asked, do you get tired? Because I've done conferences and spoke and then worked with 50 people in a day. And they're like, are you tired? And it's 2 a.m. and I'm so buzzing with energy that I'm like, no, I'm going to have to calm down and go to bed. Because when you're tapped into that abundant energy, I don't give of my own energy. I give from the overflow. So it's a beautiful thing, but it all goes back to what is in the soul. And that's where I'm segueing back to what you said about the tools in the self-help. I honor anyone who is wanting to help others in sharing what they have learned to try to make people's lives better. I honor everyone doing that. But we only share what we know. If they haven't experienced getting rid of fear, they may not believe they can, but you actually can. So fear is an energy that overlays on your energy, and it drains you of your love, your power, and your clarity. Because when we're in a fearful state, where our minds aren't really clear. And I don't believe there is a good fear. I've been challenged with this over the years. Well, what about the fear that there's something, to keep you from doing something? I don't call that fear. I call that knowledge and wisdom. So if I know I'm not supposed to do something because I have knowledge and wisdom drop through, then I just have a knowing I'm not supposed to do it, but I don't have to be fearful about it.
Have your daughter benefited from your work, your wisdom, and your state of being? Because I know that some parents that they're phenomenal at what they do, and sometimes that their kids will actually like almost like a replica version of them and even outshine them in their work. But some of them, they've got a different life path. It doesn't matter what the parents know. They needed to go through a different path themselves to experience their life purpose. So what's your daughter like in terms of her?
Both my daughter and goddaughter practice getting the truth. They do. There was a time when they didn't want to, when they were in high school. And they were like, if you're feeling bad, what's the truth about that? I don't care about the truth. I believe that it's a choice. But the cool thing about it is when you're accessing the truth, your spirit and source and truth are directing you. So it's your higher self directing you. It's not another person. So that's the cool thing about it. So now I can see my daughter just had a conversation with me, and I would not be surprised. I'm taking this worldwide. You're catching me just on the cusp of going worldwide with this. And me stepping into the bravery of the criticism I may receive, or, people saying things about me that aren't true, stuff like that. I had to get my own truth to do that. But don't be surprised if my daughter doesn't do circles around me. She was talking about how we need to share this with the world because it actually changes the cosmology of how people process emotions of it. I believe it's our birthright, and we're stepping back into our real power, not a false power. The ego carries a false power that's fleeting. The soul, when it is one with the truth, is power. It's the I am that I am.
Claudette, I really honor you for going through this journey and being a light to the world with all your love and peace and joy. It almost feels like that there's certain lessons, karmic lessons, if you like to call it that, like through the family lineage or the fractal lineage just got carried through, and then somebody had to break it. And just because you've been able to break it, you freed up your daughter and the future generation and the whole ancestral tribe as well of this pain and for humanity. So I really want to honor you for that and sharing your gifts and your knowledge with humanity. So I want to finish up with one last question. With the work that you do, and you see a lot of the work that is being done and people are waking up more and more, what do you see an awakening world would look like?
I love that question. That's so awesome. I think the awakening world would look like the fact that I call the beliefs monkey bullshit, and you've got the chihuahua. So what happens before we're aware is we have the chihuahua driving our car. That's our chauffeur. We have a monkey carrying some bullshit navigating our life. And we're just in the back of the car thinking we're in control. So that's the visual. But once you get the truth, then, the chihuahua is still driving because that's our body. That's that part of us that moves forward in this realm. And you have the monkey, but now it's the good shit, not the bullshit. And your spirit is directing the navigation. So I would love a world to where parents would share with their kids from a young age, how to tap into. I taught my daughter at the age of 2 to tap into the truth. She would have a few nightmares, a few things like that, and we would just remove the fear from the room. And as she started to grow up, she was like, Mom, I'm just not afraid. And all my friends are afraid of everything, and I'm just not afraid. And I said, well, that's because we removed that at such a young age. But see, parents don't understand that that can be done. So it would be a world where we were talking about the truth, and we were sharing with our kids how to tap into that. Now, this is not a controlling thing. This is for the freedom of our souls. So no one's trying to control anyone. But I'm all for the freedom of the soul and removing the monkey bullshit, because that's what stops us from being magnificent who we were created to be. And so a world where we're accessing that higher level of genius, we're accessing that higher level of love, power, and clarity, and we're working together. That's what I want. And we're not spending all this time spinning around with these bullshit thoughts that aren't even true about ourselves. And we're not suffering in that way anymore. Because once you get the truth, the suffering is gone. Even trauma. I've worked with several people with trauma, and that the truth can heal anything. And I say that with confidence because I'm not doing the healing. It's the spirit of truth flowing through, and that's our birthright. And so that's what I want for the world. I want everyone walking in their soul's freedom. I want them rising into their power. I want this becoming and being transformed into an absolutely beautiful place. I see the beauty of the earth. I look for the beauty every day. I look for the magic. That's what I focus on. But I also see the darkness, and I understand what happens in certain other places. You know, I see that. I understand there's sex trafficking. There's all these different things that as a society we have to face. But what would the world be if we didn't boycott a business because it's polluting, but we got together and created a solution for that business to become more viable and impact the world in a positive way? So we didn't make this business go out of business, but we actually changed it, funded it to become an impactful business and increase the revenue. See, I believe in things that create win-win for everybody. And what technology could we invent if we accessed the eternal truth? Like, that's where the genius comes from. That's where Tesla, Einstein. I'm a science geek. I love science because I do not believe science disproves spirituality. I actually believe it works together with it. So that's the kind of world I want to see, where we're just not tied up in the bullshit. You know, we're actually able to hold grace for each other. And if we see somebody fall or act like a 3-year-old or say something, we can hold grace in the space for them to come back, you know, and make it right, or make things right by everybody growing and not harming each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
well,
when we're in our true power, we don't have to attack anyone.
that's the beautiful things that with more riots and natural disaster that we see in this world, and it's seemingly the world is more divided than ever. I also see that we also heading, this is a call to wake up, to live a different way, a radically different way, not just like by 5%, 10%, but we need a very radical different solutions. And it may seem like we can't solve these issues, but when your consciousness shifts, just like your clients have shifted on the individual level, like the ease of problems, and it seems like it's draining on you for like your whole life, it just suddenly dissipates. And that could happen to mankind as well, and corporations and countries.
Yes. And to me, that would be an awakened world, and where everyone feels light and free within their soul. And
That's,
I share with everyone, we have a longing in our soul, in our heart, and we know there's more. And to me, the spirit of truth was the more I was looking for. Once I connected to that, my heart is so content. I don't think I'm missing anything, if that makes sense. Now, I'm open for new things. And as a human, I'm not perfect. But generally speaking, I feel so content. And I think that's a gift.
every single present moment, that's the gift. So, Claudette, how do other people find out about your work, and maybe even getting to work with you?
Oh my goodness, thank you for asking that. They can go to my website, ClaudetteAnderson.com. That's CLAUDETTE, Anderson.com. And I'm getting ready to open up a wait list for the next Truth Inner Circle. This one, I honestly didn't even advertise it. So now I'm already starting a wait list for the next one that will start in May. I do have 3 spots for one-on-one coaching, because I just graduated 3 people this month. They're doing the Truth Method on their own, and they're very happy. So I have a certain number of coaching spots, and anyone can reach out to me and fill out the contact form and get in touch with me, and we'll be in communication. So,
Awesome.
yes.
Yeah, and I'll get the social media links from you so they can follow you as your global reach and presence increases.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I just want to take a minute to honor you and what you're doing to bring awareness to everyone for what is spiritually possible, because I truly believe we don't have any limits. I think we're powerful creators, and we can create anything that we intend to, as guided by the truth. You know, I feel like when we're one with the truth, all the power in the universe has our back.
So thank you again, Claudette, and I look forward to staying in touch and hearing your evolution and the work that you do continue to impact millions of lives.
Oh, thank you so much, Gary. I appreciate you so much.